Okay, today I'm going to go over my Arcanist build, and we're going to start with the fact that I am an Imperial, and the Mundus is the warrior. I will explain that. Also, the food that I'm using is Jewels of Misrule. If you have any Orzagos, those also work. I am running Tarnished Nightmare. For the crit proc, I have a Nirnhone sword with a disease enchant, and a precise dagger with a poison enchant. On the front bar is Tarnished Nightmare, back barring Wretched Vitality. So, pretty much a staple of PvP, with a weapon damage enchant and a defending. The monster helm is Antlemira's Construct. How this works is when you use a fully charged heavy attack, and it only needs to be about 3/4 of the way charged to proc, it throws an axe dealing damage and reducing their armor for 5 seconds. It says this effect can occur every 10 seconds, scaling off your weapon damage or spell. However, if you pick up the axe on the ground, it means that you can reapply it after 5 seconds instead of waiting for the 10. I do have one trainee chest, reinforced, and all the rest of the gear is medium divine. So that's 6 medium divines with one reinforced chest heavy, and they all have Hokujos on it. I'm running a infused on all 3 pieces of jewelry with a weapon damage enchant and the stam recovery, and I have a Marken Ring of Majesty. Now I did try Death Dealer's Feat. The sustain was better and the heal was better, but as an Imperial with Wretched Vitality, I didn't need the extra sustain. I was healing just fine prior to Death Dealer's Feat, and the burst from the gear I'm wearing is dependent on weapon damage, and Marken gives me 200 more of that. So I chose to go with Marken. The champion points I'm using are pretty much typical green: Liquid Efficiency, War Mount, Gifted Rider, Steed's Blessing. In the blue tree, I'm using Fighting Finesse, Master at Arms, Wrathful Strikes, and Untamed Aggression. So I'm trying to push my weapon damage as high as I can for the procs on my gear to have that huge burst when I line my burst up. If you really felt like you were having a hard time healing through some of the dots and damage that's out there, I would be willing, and have done in the past, take off Untamed Aggression to throw on Cleansing Revival. 24 seconds isn't terrible. It's not bad to have this, but right now I'm trying to push my burst potential as high as I can. I'm running Celerity for speed, Bastion for my shields. Slippery, I like Slippery because this gives me an opportunity to save myself if I'm pulled for a bomb. And Boundless Vitality gives you 1400 more health, which helps buff the shield heal on the build. So for the skills, I'm running Exhaustive Fate Carver. So the beam is used in specific situations. Sometimes it works as an execute. Sometimes it works to run resources over someone who just wants to block. And sometimes you can use it as AoE damage on a group if they're close enough. Recuperative Treatise is so that I have the brutality and sorcery. However, keeping it up for the 30 seconds is smart because every 5 you get that little extra damage if you beam or throw Cephaliarch's Flail, which is the main spammable. I'm running Quick Cloak for the major evasion. So the Arcanist actually gets, I don't think it's here. I think it's in Soldier of Apocrypha. Here it is. Casting an Arcanist ability wraps the Weave of Fate around you, granting you and your group members minor evasion for 20 seconds. So this is you and your group members, reducing damage from AoE by 10%. This effect can occur every 5 seconds. So, you stack minor evasion with major evasion, and we're talking 30% damage mitigation from AoE attacks. That's all the bombers, cleavers, soul tether spammers, spin to wins. All of that is AoE. So that's how you mitigate that damage. It also gives you major expedition. So this is my major expedition move, as opposed to race against time. Um, for my stun, now I did used to use the Rune of Colorless Pool. And you can see both of these moves cost the same amount of magic. However, Dazing Soul reaches farther and actually does 4100 damage when it stuns. So I lose the minor brittle, which I can gain from elemental susceptibility, and I lose the minor vulnerability, which if I'm not mistaken I gain from susceptibility as well. If it's shock, it's vulnerability. If it's frost, it's brittle. So I lose those two, but still have access to those status effects. But I gain an Oblivion Dot and Major Defile. And that I found to be much more useful than the brittle and the vulnerability. Cephaliarch's Flail is what we're using for our main spammable. And it is going to get nerfed next patch, but for now I'm going to use it. I may change my mind later, but I think this is probably still what I'll use. And then Dawnbreaker, just to have a Fighters Guild move to give me that extra weapon damage from the Fighters Guild skill line, which is down here, and it is simply the Slayer. One move increases by 3%. So, I mean, if I really wanted to get my weapon and spell crit up, I could run this instead of the Fate Carver and get a little bit more damage and have Major Savagery up at all times. However, what I've found to do instead of that is I got around that with my potions. So the two potions that I'm running right now are I have Detect, Savagery, and Stamina, and I have Immovable, Savagery, and Stamina. So if you look at my character sheet right now, 27% crit chance doesn't seem good. I'm running Tarnished Nightmare, which needs to have a crit in order to proc, so I need Savagery, so I've used my pot to do that. And that actually gets me to 39%, which does go up a little bit in Cyrodiil. Even higher if your team has more scrolls, but 39% still isn't terrible. We're talking 40%, that's 4 out of 10. On the back bar, we are running the Crux Weaver Armor, which grants you your resolve, but it also applies Minor Breach when you're attacked. So, and it generates a Crux. I'm using the Rune Guard of Freedom, which gives you minor resolve and minor protection. And if you drop below half health, it'll consume that minor protection and give you a big heal, a little bit of armor, and some crowd control immunity. But it can only happen every 30 seconds with that heal, so you're going to get the minor protection and minor resolve most of the time. An oh shit moment will give you a big heal. So you do want to keep this up, though, if you can. And it does give the resolve to you and your group, so you're sharing that. The protection is simply for you. Impervious Rune Ward, this is your basic survival skill. You're going to get a huge shield for a second. You're going to regular shield underneath for 5 seconds, scaling off your max health. You will return magic damage, and it does consume Crux. Now, the only thing on my bars that consume Crux are this and the Fate Carver. So I don't use this unless it's necessary. So in most situations, I have 3 Cruxes built, and this will get all 3 for a big fat heal under that shield. Elemental Susceptibility, which applies the status effects, which you have 15% more damage with and 55% higher chance to apply. And then I don't need Vigor because I get the minor resolve from Rune Guard of Freedom. So I'm using Evolving Rumend, which I can share with group members if I have some. It heals for 3930 3 times and 4400 over 6 seconds. Every 2 seconds you get a heal. So there's 3 extra hot heals underneath. Each Crux reduces the cost of this by 3%. I'll show how that works in a moment. And then Gibbering Shield is my back bar ultimate. I'm running a Frost Staff, so I don't really have any other ultimate to run there. I mean, I could probably run the Unblinking Eye or whatever the morph of that is, but I'm typically using Dawnbreaker for the burst, and not using that eye. And then the Frost Staff ultimate would be my other option. I guess I could use Barrier or something, but I like sharing the shield in an oh shit moment. Hoping that the real reason that I like this shield is if you're about to get bombed or you're getting bombed and you hit this, everyone else gets a little bit of a shield and then they might not blow you up. See, and that's the key. You don't want to get blown up by the people that are near you if you get pulled, and you're gonna get pulled. So how the burst works is pretty simple. So remember I said everything is built off of weapon damage, so we're gonna buff up. And first thing I'll do is I'll show the resistances. It's 29,000 on the back bar, and it's 25,800 on the front. And that's in 6 medium armor, 1 heavy. And then as you can see, it's 6291 weapon damage, and that's completely unbuffed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into combat. We're going to pop our potion. We're going to hit susceptibility. We're going to hit a move here. Throw that. Oop, didn't work. And then you'll see my weapon damage is 7,011, and it'll drop to about 6,500. That's without continuous. So it goes up with continuous, and if anybody has any sets in your group that are buffing your damage, it'll go up. And that is what... I'll hit this. Get that proc. And then so we can look at Anthlomir's Construct. It's 11,000 physical... Well, I must have come unbuffed here. There we go. 11,095 with a 2,500 armor reduction for 5 seconds. So that's when that goes off. So what you do is you throw your susceptibility, and if you're getting attacked while you have your armor up, that's major and minor breach, which is about 9,000. You add that to the... I'm on my back bar. You add that to the 3,600 I have, 9,036. That's 12,6. We'll say 12,5. And then with the Anthlomir's Construct, you also add another 23 to 2,500 depending on how buffed you are. So we'll just say the 23 on top of 12,5 is 14,800. So we're talking about 15,000 pen is what this pushes. And how you do the burst is you're out there, you hit him with your susceptibility, switch over, and all that hits at once. So when you're doing your heavy attack, you can use your stun, and then so what you're doing with your heavy attack is you're trying to get your Tarnished Nightmare, wherever it is, there we go. You want your Tarnished Nightmare to proc, you want your Anthlomir's Construct to proc, you want your Disease and Poison enchants to proc, plus a heavy attack, and the Cephaliax's Flail. So once you're buffed up, you throw your breach on him, you turn, and you hit him with that combo just like that. And everything bursts at once. All those numbers that just pop, that comes with the heavy attack. So a lot of time what I'll do is I'll kind of lock them down a little bit, force them to roll dodge. When they come out of the roll dodge, hit them with the stun, go right into the heavy flail, just like that. And that's where you're going to get all of your burst. And all the sets and everything bursting at once is a lot of damage all at once. And that's basically how you play the Arcanist with this build. So that will be it. Thanks.